This program is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. The information provided in this podcast reflects the opinions and experiences of the hosts and is not medical or mental health advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any questions about your health or well-being. If you are experiencing a medical or mental health emergency, contact your local emergency services.
Pattern that I've seen in all my siblings, and the approval that we saw has been from, it's been different genders, so it could be male and female, and then also
behaviors do you have in you today that no one in your family has in them is a good start. And if you do something amazing, they're going to celebrate that. But the reality of it is, if you do something amazing and they don't get selected, then what's going to really happen is you're going to trigger their inadequacy.
Welcome back to the Adjusting Your Life podcast. I'm Kennedi and I'm here with Dr. Steve. This is episode 112, Releasing Generational Cycles. Are you living out your parents' behavioral patterns?
This episode of the Adjusting Your Life podcast is brought to you by Ward Chiropractic. Dr. Steve finds what most doctors miss. And his wall adjustment technique? It can bring fast relief. Check out chiroman.com for hours, location, and to contact the clinic. That's chiroman, chiroman.com.
What's the first step that a patient can take in identifying whether they're living out their parents' behavioral patterns?
Well, I think the question, what behaviors do you have in you today that no one in your family has in them, is a good start, because a lot of people can't answer that question. And if you're unable to answer that question, then it's likely that most of your behavioral scripting is through bonding, and you've actually bonded with a generational pattern or a behavior that it began before you.
Okay, so when a patient comes in and you start, coaching them, is there something they can do in terms of like self-reflecting on some of the behaviors that they have and identifying maybe if they're from their mom's side or their dad's side?
Yes. Well, you can look at it two ways, because you can look at their posture, which is going to tell you their root traumas. And then you can feel the body, which is going to tell you about what's going on in their life. For instance, I might see a woman in a left curvature, and that's getting in touch with maybe she thinks she would be loved differently if she was male. But then you check the body, and all the ribs are out on the right side, but she's coming in with left-sided upper shoulder pain. Mm-hmm. And so what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that influenced by a strong female that set high standards and was better at negating than validating, which is so important to understand. But the left shoulder tells me what? That they're carrying too much load, that they're operating too much in their masculine, and their masculine is always telling them they can do more. Mm-hmm. So there's so much that can be identified in seconds of assessing a person and why they're coming in, what's the pain pattern, but also what the posture is. And then depending, is it left, is it more male dysfunction, or is it right, more female dysfunction? Is it more of a personalization of a trauma, or more of a denial of a trauma? So these things are so powerful that we can actually, even without the standing and seated front and side view full spine x-rays, get a fairly decent reading on any person. It doesn't mean that all people are the same. It doesn't mean that all people are there for me to give them insights. Sure. Because some people are only there for me to unlock their pain. And they really don't have the emotional quotient to be too open to receiving the behavioral information. So I've had people say, "Oh, doc, I'm that you're opening up a bag of worms, So I'm just here for an adjustment because you're really good at that, and that's what I need from you, and that's what they're going to get from me.
Mm-hmm. So growing up with my my mom and dad, it was like the negation that happened, I think, was more of like subtle. It was that they didn't notice things at all. It wasn't
right.
like they noticed and then told us we could do better.
Right.
And so that's
even a deeper negation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because they're not even present enough to even express their negation.
Right.
Right. So that's deep wound in them.
Right.
Because they're in somewhat of a paralysis there.
Right.
So it's interesting when you look at that.
Because that just that in and of itself definitely catapulted in each of us kids something where all of us 7 kids have sought approval. That's a consistent pattern that I've seen in all my siblings. And the approval that we sought has been from, it's been different genders. So it could be male and female. And then also in different environments, whether it was school or work or, at the gym, all of that. And
all aspects of life, you will see that dynamic unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
We are programmed in life to think that when we do attain a certain level, we'll get approval by just the program that we hear. But the truth of the matter is that's a lie. It's a lie.
Right.
The lie is that if I do something really well, I'm going to get approval for what I've done. That's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it is when you follow some of this wisdom in the podcast,
mm-hmm.
you take your power back.
Right.
You realize your true power is not coming from someone outside of you. It's coming from within you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like love outside is different from love from the inside.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Or joy outside is different from joy inside.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
So I think that it's exciting for people to realize that they have power, and through awareness they can make little edits, and little edits over time make incredible changes and transformations in a person's life.
Mm-hmm. What would you say for someone that like when we talk about birth order, right? And you have siblings that are looking to the older sibling and then find themselves wanting that approval from like a sibling relationship?
Well, it happens, of course, because we are programmed to look for approval. So it's natural. But we're not programmed to see if the person's healthy enough to be able to give what they haven't received.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we can make such quick changes, because anyone can learn.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can learn to build on their greatness. Anyone can learn to find value in who they are.
Mm-hmm.
People can learn quickly that it's a misdirection to believe that the more you do, the more you get.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. The more you do, the more you get tired.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it doesn't mean the more you do, you get what you need.
Right.
And of course, this brings up another point. If we're sharing what we need, we have a better opportunity to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, well, I've always looked for your approval, but now I'm looking for my approval,
Mm-hmm.
And as I don't need approval from that person and I share that,
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden they can give that. So when I said to my mom, all my life I've looked for your approval, now in my life I'm giving myself the approval I need, it allowed my mom to start to give approval.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did it the other way, did I do it well enough to get approval? It was never well enough.
Mm-hmm.
I could not make my mom a male,
Mm-hmm.
right? And same is true with me. I had so much trauma around my birth. I was more female influenced. So, you can't make, I might be a male that's female influenced, but you can't I can't become a female.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's an interesting process how confusion comes into play in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we want this podcast to give people awareness at a different level,
Mm-hmm.
so they can take back their power and find the joy in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And by finding that joy, their life is going to be so much more abundant.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be things that we talk about, and they're going to hear lots of different times on the podcast, just because I think it's important that it's heard over and over again. And one of those things is, who are you trying to be enough for? And we were talking earlier about off camera about a situation that my niece has been in with some schoolmates, and you and I have talked about seeking approval. I feel like from adults, right, and parents,
Mm-hmm.
and so let's talk about how the behavioral patterns in parents influence kids, and then how those kids can project in a school environment, whether it be middle school or high school, and maybe talk about some tools that some of the kids could have. I don't know how many teenagers would walk up to their friend and say, I was looking for your approval. I wanted you to like me.
True.
But maybe there's some power in that, and maybe it would be something brave to do. But maybe that needs to start to be the dialogue, so that it lets, like, you're letting your best friend off the hook because they're wounded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's something in that can actually not only change in them, but actually change what's happening at home.
Well, what's happening at home teaches our kids what to do with their peers.
Mm-hmm.
And generationally speaking, the challenge, whether you're a kid or an adult, is your fantasy is that your friends are for you.
Right.
And if you do something amazing, they're going to celebrate that.
Right.
But the reality of it is, if you do something amazing and they don't get selected, then what's going to really happen is you're going to trigger their inadequacy. And then what happens when people get triggered in inadequacy? People start withholding from the person.
Right.
I'm not going to include you in communication, or I'm just going to act like you're not even there, or I'm not going to allow you to be part of a group chat, or whatever it is, because people have this inner anger,
mm-hmm.
and then they have this need to be passive aggressive. So, how can I show you my anger without expressing my anger? Right. And so, as hard as it is for a child, because they're so vulnerable, and that situation you're talking about, she's really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe her friends are more masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their mothers are more male dominant.
Right.
Maybe the child not getting selected selects the mother's feeling of inadequacy. Mm-hmm. And then the daughter has bonded with that on some level. And so now she's feeling inadequate. And then this this amazing young life that it lives the fantasy of thinking that their friends will support them, come to the clarity that friends who are true, legitimate friends will support you when you do something great. And they will not feel inadequate and feel a need to pull you under, mm-hmm. right? So it starts with parents, but then kids learn about it, and then kids. I mean, I remember a story that I think is important in mm-hmm. this dynamic, and it was a gal that came in and she said, "I don't know what happened, but when I went to bed, I felt great, but when I woke up, I couldn't walk. My right knee was so bad." Mm-hmm. And she was part of a cheerleading squad, and she was on the bottom. So that young lady thought that she was going to be on a team and that team was going to support her and love her and all that.
Right.
But then what was really happening is someone that was in a higher level of power was hypercritical of her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she took it internally and she withdrew from it. And then she had the pain where she couldn't even walk, and she did nothing to have that pain. And that pain was coming up to give her an excuse not to continue
Mm-hmm.
being a part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how life is. And this is what I see every day.
Mm-hmm.
And people come in every day because they're having challenges, not just with a parent, but they're having challenges with peers.
Right.
And when you're a vulnerable girl and you're amongst a group of male dominant
Mm-hmm.
girls, you are susceptible, because what they need to work on is vulnerability, and that scares the life out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what the vulnerable needs to work on is more masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
This isn't personal. I'm sorry that I was selected at something and you were not. In my fantasy, I would love for all my friends to be selected. Well, that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can run from it. I remember as a child, my dad said, I'm out of school. You're going to present to these doctors.
Right.
And I was going to run from it. And he said, if you run today, son, you'll run the rest of your life. And I said, well, I'm going to run. But a couple hours later, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I realized, oh, no, I'm not going to run the rest of my life. I'm going to do what is being asked of me to do. And I'm going to stretch myself and make it happen. It was a wonderful experience. So we just need to be mindful that not all the people that start out as our friends will stay lifelong friends. And it will be a very small number of people that actually can be a friend,
Mm-hmm.
that's truly a friend. Because a true friend acknowledges that you may be different, but sees the greatness in you,
Right.
and supports it. And then the reciprocity is the other person supports their friend and what they're great at. Because we're not all great,
Right.
yeah, at
Different
the same
things.
thing. So,
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, I thought that was
helpful?
great. Yeah. We'll be right back.
Oh.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about tools to break these generational patterns. So, Dr. Steve, we just talked about some challenges my niece is having with her schoolmates, and I think maybe we can expand on that in terms of talk about the expectation that kids have in school, middle school, and high school, and some things that they could do to process through some of the experiences they're having, or maybe there's a conversation that they could have with this friend that maybe isn't supporting them. What would you say?
Well, it's difficult when it's a negative competition.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone attains something and someone doesn't attain,
Mm-hmm.
because in that, the person that doesn't get included, it triggers root abandonment with them. And what comes with that is someone being hurt, someone being made to feel inadequate. So we have this fantasy in life that says, oh, the people closest to me are going to support me. But the reality in life is that doesn't happen as often as we would like.
Mm-hmm.
So often the people we want to support us are unable to do it. But that doesn't mean that there isn't other people outside of that wounded circle
Mm-hmm.
that you can go to and get support.
Right.
Because it's really through awareness and understanding that fantasy that someone will support me because I'm doing something really amazing is really not real.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in this situation, it would be great if she could attain something
Mm-hmm.
and then be supported by the people that didn't get the same outcome.
Right.
But then what happens is it triggers a root trauma, and the root trauma is way before that experience. And then what happens is they're transferring from, oh, I'm injured, and this is what I do when I get injured. I mean, how many people, when they get injured, withhold?
A lot.
A lot of people. And so what I would encourage her to do is put the wounding that she's feeling into words and express that wounding to, people that are really authentically there for you, and realize that may be one person. It could be one friend that's different. It could be a parent. It could be a coach. It could be a teacher. So we just need to be open to allow, a person to come in and help to heal that wound that's occurring, because it's difficult. It's a very hard time being a young person and navigating with people that have their fathers that are never present, or their fathers that never expressed love to them, or their fathers that told them they wanted a son and got a daughter, or, whatever, or the fathers that never show up at their games. And then of course, then we look at so many ladies today, we see so many ladies who had dominant mothers who have inner anger, and they even get triggered. So, how does that change? Well, it changes when she doesn't personalize the fact that wounded people are around her, and she stays in touch with her power and her greatness and her gift. And she realizes that we're all given gifts, and in this one dynamic, someone sees a gift in her that they really feel will be beneficial for the team. And it doesn't mean that the other people that fall short don't have other gifts.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that by going back and working towards that goal, they can't arrive there.
Right.
But to punish someone for being called out for doing something really well, it's just a wounded person that will do that. So,
Right.
and our parents are so wounded, and kids are wounded, and kids with kids are wounded, and it's a challenge. But you're not alone. We all have worked in that dynamic of having people not support us when we wanted to.
Right. Well, even in the workplace too.
All the time in the workplace, because now you do have work environments that you have leadership that is they have higher emotional intelligence. And they're more conscious of how their emotions and how they communicate and how they can support someone, even if they're supporting someone else for something. The other people can be supported too.
Right.
And so, but it's a work in process. I think it's powerful, though, to just make sure that you're clear that you're not navigating with healthy people. You're navigating with wounded people. And that's where it all goes into a little bit of a challenge.
So for our audience, if parents are listening and they are realizing that maybe they haven't done the best job in terms of validating their children, and maybe they're aware of their children feeling bad about themselves, or which obviously is one of the ways that translates at school, right? What can they start doing to build their child up so that they have the capacity to actually be excited for their friend that's having some success in whatever it is they're doing?
Yeah. Well, use your imagination. A parent can express a story that occurred in their life and how they were being impacted and how they would look at it differently today, and how people come and people go. That, the people who belong in your life stay, and the people that don't belong will fade away. And that's a spiritual law. So not everyone belongs and not everyone stays. And like throughout all the years, I have really a lot of really good friends that are really good, that they would, lay their life down for me, and so I'm blessed. I have a core group of people that are really great friends, and they have supported me at my low times. And every time I have something going on that I'm excited about, they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited." Like I talked to my friend Brian last night, and he was telling me oh, I just can't wait for the podcast to come out. I'm going to just share it with everyone. I just can't wait. I'm so excited. And, that's
Amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing. So when you have good friendships that you build over time, you build it really on being kind and being loyal and supporting when they need that support, and being a life preserver at times when someone needs to be held up, right? Instead of when wounded people get wounded, they are absolutely anchors, and their whole journey is to take you under, not keep you afloat. And it's all because of their inner feeling of inadequacy. It has nothing to do with the other person.
Right. Well, so when I was in freshman in high school, I had intense desire or maybe a craving to belong. And I'd gone to a different school for elementary school. So when I started in 7th grade, and it was a 7th, 8th grade middle school, it was a struggle for me. I remember, because I wanted to belong in these groups of kids that had known each other since kindergarten. And my parents were not, it wasn't even on their radar. And I remember feeling really alone, isolated. I sat alone on the bus. And I don't even, looking back, I'm not even sure how I made it through. I think in 9th grade, it was, as a freshman, I had made a lot of effort in trying to communicate with people, and it was just kind of it was either not accepted. And then that was the year that I ran away from home. And I do remember following up like letters back then. And I tried to stay in contact, but I wasn't really getting back the effort that I was putting in. But I do, as I'm thinking about it now, and I haven't thought about it in a long time, I continued that pattern of trying to go after relationships where the other person wasn't participating. And I would do that to probably my mid-20s, actually, until I was gaining some semblance of awareness at the time and thinking, well, this doesn't feel good, But I think it's amazing that we have all these resources now. And obviously this podcast is going to be a resource for parents and children, and that they can actually make changes, and they don't have to live in that space of isolation.
Yeah. Well, the harder we try to get something in life, when it comes to wounded people, the harder it becomes. That's number one. So you were putting out an effort, but nothing was coming back in reciprocity. Right. And that just says that they can't be in your vibrational energy, right? That you're in two different vibrational energies there. And what's happening is you're wanting something to happen because you don't want to be revealed as inadequate. And what's occurring is the withholding and the passive aggression is triggering a feeling of inadequacy. And then you start putting like a umbrella over the light, right? And you start dimming your light because someone else that you wanted to support you, who can't support you, would if they also attained that goal, but can't because they see that as someone's better than they are. And that's true. There are so many people on this planet better than me at a lot of things that I do. And so I'm very clear that where I've been given some unique skills and gifts that were uniquely given to me, there's so many people that have other gifts that I wouldn't even begin to even have a desire to compete. So I think it's just through awareness again that we're going to make the edits necessary, and we're going to give the kids the power. But if you're a parent and you have a child and they're facing this kind of struggle, use your imagination, come up with a story that you can relate to your child that's similar, and what you learn from it and how you've been able to grow from it. Because then they can hear a strategy and a way to cope with the process. And because it's not about putting the umbrella over the sunshine.
Right. For sure. If there's a parent listening and their child doesn't communicate with them, depending on age and gender, sometimes kids come home from school and don't really elaborate on the day, and what's some dialogue that a parent could use to elicit information or sharing, or
just something as simple as, oh, I see that you're really internal and quiet. It seems like something's bothering you, and wow, let me tell you, I've experienced that throughout my life. And when things were happening, I really didn't even know how to express it, and so I would internalize and deny it, and it just set up bigger problems for me. So here's some of the strategy I use to get into clarity of what I'm even thinking is going to occur. Mm-hmm. Because when dealing with people who come from many generations of wounds that are not healed, they're always being transferred. It's just happening all the time.
Right.
And if you think a child isn't coming from that dysfunction, mm-hmm. and then you see adults that come from that dysfunction, so they were a child and they learned how to do it. And then as an adult, they keep duplicating it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we can change. Mm-hmm. But if you're a parent, use your imagination. Find a story that can be beneficial to your child. Mm-hmm. Express to your child how, when things have bothered you throughout your early life, how you chose to deal with that is internalizing and processing and withdrawing and denying. And how you learned that just wasn't even what it was about. It was about, I wanted something from someone that they could not give me no matter what mm-hmm. I did.
Mm-hmm. Well, most likely the parent's probably experiencing something like that in their adult relationships, or,
been experienced from a young person to a teenager to young adult to older adult. It's what we're all navigating mm-hmm. in this journey, and it's hard, for a young person to have the emotional quotient that an older person can get in a very short period of time.
Sure,
they can say, "Oh, wow, I get what you're saying, because at no point was I enough for my mom, or at no point was I enough for my dad, or no matter what I did, I was always told that it wasn't adequate and that I was expected to do even better, even though what was the work that went into this great outcome was, you can't even measure the amount of work." And then we have someone who doesn't do any of the work, and they come in and they negate what you've done, and that happens so much between child and parent, teacher and child, coach and athlete. It's just running out of control.
Mm-hmm. So if you're a coach and you're listening, and obviously they're coaching other people's children for the most part. What is something they could do in their coaching? Say they're with these kids, 3-4 hours a day, and maybe they're having some struggles at home or being negated. What's some dialogue that a coach could use to encourage them? Or
the more a coach is healthy within themselves,
right?
That's the only time that they can really be a coach that helps heal these inner wounds. Mm-hmm. And so that means the coach has to have awareness. Mm-hmm. And awareness is, I was negated and now I'm negating. Mm-hmm. Or I was negated and now I'm learning to celebrate. Mm-hmm. Or I've attained a high level, but I still felt lonely, right? Mm-hmm. And so we can do a lot of good. Mm-hmm. We can help people to understand that we recognize what they're giving, mm-hmm. and we recognize that they're really giving their best effort, mm-hmm. and that the coach can say, "Hey, I can acknowledge how hard you're working, and I can see how you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a coach, so I'm going to give you awareness as to even grow from where you already have grown.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really the journey, is help people become healthy, individuals, help people so they can help humanity on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And the role of a coach is amazing. If you're so often with ladies, if they have a male coach, well, they will want that male approval.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they didn't feel loved or validated or encouraged by their father,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want that. So we all have responsibility to wake up and to not be asleep, to do things differently
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing things the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And because doing it the same way just means you are asleep in your life. And until you have this awareness that says, oh, from this point forward, I'm going to not do it that way, and I'm going to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So I might say, I'm really learning to love myself even when someone outside of me wants to tell me I'm not good enough or withhold from me.
Mm-hmm.
And it triggers in me, but it's really an issue where something was withheld from them, or they wouldn't know how to withhold from you.
Right. So, speaking of coaches, so say in a situation where they would win a game or they would, lose a game,
Mm-hmm.
what's some dialogue that a coach could express in those situations? I think to frame a win or to frame a loss in the best, because I talked to my sister about this with the soccer, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
on one side you have parents on both sides of the teams, both parents and players want to be, win, and win is in score more points, for example, right? Because I think there's winning in these situations that's not necessarily on a scoreboard, right? So I think that whether someone wins by the point metric, right? There's probably something that a coach could say that would be, like life nuggets and stuff. I mean, obviously they're celebrating, right? But there's some impartation, I think, that could happen on a win versus a loss, right? So maybe what advice in those situations would you?
I think it's always about intentional energy. And if you're showing up and you're dedicated and you're consistent, I think those are really important steps, because what are we teaching them? Well, if you're going to be part of this team, you're going to be involved in these practices several days a week. Are you giving your best to that? Are you showing up for those? Are you consistent with that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you open to learn? Are you open to grow? Are you willing to hear someone and their opinion, even if it's different from how you see it? So much of everything gets back to emotional quotient, how smart you are emotionally,
right,
how aware you are. Are you changing programs that you inherited? Are you living the same programs that you inherited? And coaches need to be, if you fall short, hey, you all showed up and you gave your best and you celebrated and you had fun, and it was such an amazing year, and you all were able to participate, and you all have grown, because it's not about winning, it's about growing. And you can win every game and never grow, or you can win every game and grow. Right.
So it could even be like, your intention and effort resulted in a win today, but it also, you could give your best intention and it could result in
falling short.
Right. You scored more points today and that resulted in a win, but that effort could also result in not, I don't really like the word lose.
Yeah, well, because you're not really losing,
right.
Sometimes it takes many attempts to perfect something
right.
before someone even has awareness of what they have.
Right.
So it's in our willingness to keep moving forward And if you're playing a sport you love, then stay in the joy and love of the game you play.
Right.
Right? Like I love chiropractic and I don't really care how much money I make.
Right.
Right? Because from me, I rather see someone heal and evolve and grow into their greatness than, let me get a whole bunch of money out of each person. It's not my need.
Right.
And again, it's never been my need.
Right.
And money comes and money will come. And at some point it will be even more than even I need.
Sure.
So, but it is the journey for people to understand that healing their wounds instead of projecting their wounds is their responsibility. So if you are going to take on the role of a coach, then work on healing your wounds of inadequacy.
Right.
And don't be a coach that transfers your inadequacy that you feel inside of you onto someone else. Be mindful that that's the change that needs to be made in you. And then what impact that will have, it's going to be enormous with the kids you're coaching. It's like I'll say this. Say I have an athlete and he can't make a free throw. Well, the coach should really change the behavior. So he goes to the line to make a free throw. What's he saying? I have to make this free throw. But he could say, I love shooting free throws.
Right.
Not I love making free throws.
Right.
But I love shooting free throws.
Right.
So every time he goes to the free throw line and he's been a poor free throw shooter, he embeds into consciousness how much I love shooting free throws. If I'm shooting shots from outside and my shot's not hitting the bat and making it, then I love shooting.
Right.
And I'm going to make some and I'm going to lose some. I mean, we look at like baseball. If you go to the plate 100 times and you hit consistently 30% of the time, you can make it to the Hall of Fame. So 70% of the time you fail. So, we got to put everything into a healthier perspective.
Right, for sure. We will be right back.
This episode of the Adjusting Your Life podcast is brought to you by Ward Chiropractic. For over 30 years, Dr. Steve Ward has been helping people get to the root cause of their pain. He's a second-generation chiropractor who looks at the whole spine, not just the sore spot. With standing and seated full spine x-rays, Dr. Steve finds what most doctors miss. And his wall adjustment technique? It can bring fast relief. Back pain, sports injuries. Check out chiroman.com for hours, location, and to contact the clinic. Or stop by Ward Chiropractic Family Center today. Mention this ad, and you'll get a free recheck 2 hours after your first adjustment. That's chiroman, chiroman.com for more info.
Welcome back. We're going to discuss the role of coaching in change. So, Dr. Steve, what are steps that someone can start taking if they are looking to break a cycle that they're feeling that they're currently in?
Well, I would look at breaking a cycle. I would use the word releasing. I like the word better than breaking. Breaking's hostile, release is non-hostile. I would want to, encourage them to take something that is common for them and look to make a little edit in that, a little change in it. When we study things like generational inadequacy that every single person on this planet is influenced by, when it passes from one generation to the next, 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 it's passing always the same way. And how it's being passed is through expectation. And what everyone on this planet is really good at is having unreasonable expectations. Like it's unreasonable to think that every single kid on a team will be pulled up to the varsity team. That would be unreasonable, right? So just understanding that when you study inadequacy, that it's disguised in expectation is very important.
Right.
Because when we look at it differently and we say to the person, I'm a coach, and I say, well, this is what I was taught, and I always looked in my life about giving my best and doing my best and being enough for someone, but I've learned that there's no way to be enough for someone who's not enough for themselves.
Right.
And so, although I'm your coach, I want you to know that I see the greatness in all of you kids, and all of you kids are dedicated and giving your best, and you're a part of this team, and that's what makes us a great team. Mm-hmm. We may have a couple stars, but we have a lot of players that are complementary to the stars that are on the team, and their role is very important. And like the kid who, I encouraged him to take the shot mm-hmm. instead of not take the shot. Mm-hmm. How did his life change? Was he a star player? No, he was one of the support cast. And what happened? He made the shot to put us into the championship game. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we want to realize how everyone has ability to grow. And even as an athlete, one year you may not make the team. Like, Michael Jordan had difficulty in high school, mm-hmm. but then he goes off to college. Right. And now he's considered the very best player of all times. Mm-hmm. And he struggled like in high school. Mm-hmm. And so, when we struggle, sometimes that's just our inner workings, mm-hmm. that we're putting so much pressure on ourselves. We're robbing ourselves of the joy of the game we love. So if I'm a coach, as I have been coaching 12-year-olds basketball, mm-hmm. My role was to be consistent and to give them a different view and help them to understand that they're all valuable and important, mm-hmm. and that they all bring a little something to the team, and that's what makes us a team.
Right. Another angle I think too that might be maybe a consideration is that if you're on JV, for example, maybe there's a reason you're on JV. Maybe there's a difference that you're supposed to make in someone else's life in that place, and sure. and say there's something in there, there's something there for someone to do for someone else on a team, but until that happens, the next step isn't available for them, because the idea that there's a program saying, oh, like varsity must be like what it is, like you just have to make varsity, right? But actually, I feel like what if there's someone on the JV team that needs like your support and stuff? So I feel like as parents, which parents are coaches, right, in their, they can be coaches in their family or coaches in general. There's something to be said about looking around and seeing, like, is there a reason that you're on JV, and what could that be? Yeah. Because you also, in whether it's
and it's not a negation that you're on JV,
right?
That there are a lot of people that would like to be on JV, right. So right. There obviously, because we chase approval from others, and when we're evolved, we shine a light on a person, and mm-hmm. the light's not shined on the other people. But it doesn't mean that if you stay consistent, you keep wanting to grow and evolve and have fun and find the joy and the experience that you're within, that you're living. Mm-hmm. Because, wow, if you're on a JV team that just plays really well, and it's a cohesive unit, and you make a lot of friends, and those friends become lifelong friends because you're on JV together, right? So there's always an opportunity to enjoy where we are at. Mm-hmm. Like, let's enjoy where we're at, mm-hmm. and let's be open to evolving from that place. Mm-hmm. But it's important to find the joy in where we currently are.
Right. Well, I think too, there's stories about, young people in high school, and they have all this success in high school, not realizing what it's kind of like a small pond or big fish, small pond, small
Mhm.
pond, big fish. Like,
Mhm.
so, they peak in high school because
Mhm.
it's been easier. They've, made all these, things have come, maybe they play quarterback, all 4 years or whatnot. And then they go into the real world, and then it's like, it's such a bigger space.
Yeah.
And then you have, and then they struggle because they're not getting the attention or accolades that they once got in high school and stuff. So it's, I think um, reframing these situations for young people is important,
Mhm.
and also given context, because you could have played JV soccer. It doesn't mean that you couldn't go out for a club team, or, I mean, there's just so many opportunities for young people. And if there was just a way that parents, teachers, coaches could become more, healthier in the way that they view things, and then the expectation that they have reasonable expectations for all of these young people.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
No.
really the solution,
yeah.
is what you just said. It is having reasonable expectations instead of unreasonable expectations. We have much happier lives when we place a reasonable expectation on ourselves,
Mhm.
but when we place unreasonable expectations for ourselves, then immediately we have a letdown. Then we're triggered to feel inadequate.
Mhm.
Now, once the inadequacy is triggered, now other behaviors come out of it. And as we grow into the reasonable expectation.
Mhm.
Like, for instance, you go to the biggest guy at the gym,
Mhm.
the strongest guy at the gym, the guy that's lifting the most weight,
Mhm.
and you ask him or her, at what point have you lifted enough weight? And their answer is always the same.
Right. Never.
And what's that answer?
Never.
Never. And so what they're saying is, at no point in my life am I going to be good enough with what I've attained.
Mhm.
And does it make sense if, I'm 30 and I'm doing something, but now I'm trying to do even more at 40.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, now that I'm 50, I want to be doing more than I did at 40.
Right.
And when I'm at 60, I want to be more than I did at, 30,
Mhm.
right? And that's where you hear people, oh, I don't want to lose my gains. Like, no one really cares.
Right. Only in your mind.
About your gains.
Only in your
No
mind.
one cares.
Yeah.
Does someone care if you lifted 400 pounds or 550 pounds? No one really cares. But where is the wound in that? I believe that's in negation.
Sure.
Yeah. So you got to grow,
Mhm.
and athletes need to understand when they lose sight of the joy of the game that they're playing for whatever reason, and they come at it from super unreasonable expectations, then it robs them of the game that they should be enjoying at that point in their life.
Right. Right. Well, in these team sports, like you have like, say, the quarterback, but the only, to score the points, right? And for the other team not to score points, I mean, you need the whole defensive
Right.
line, the whole defensive line, right? So
Right.
it's like there's people that are highlighted, but and same with basketball, right? Like, you're not going to, these games are not played with one person,
No.
and they're not won because of one person.
No.
Right. So,
and one person you would have the best player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And if that best player in the league is going to lose a lot of games, if the other players can't work with that team player. Right. Because one player doesn't win a game,
right.
A team wins a game.
Right.
But when you're a big fish in a little pond, and then you go to a big pond, and you're what you've only known as being the big fish in the little pond, and then you go to something else and you're like, oh my gosh, where I really excelled, now there's other kids that are actually have other skills. And so it makes you feel inadequate, right?
Right.
It's like, I can go out and I can watch another chiropractor speak, and I can hear, wow, this person has so much knowledge on this subject.
Sure.
And then I can say, well, I don't really have knowledge on that subject at all. And so then that can trigger in me that I'm inadequate because they have this knowledge that I don't have. You know, so it's a constant process of learning,
Sure.
you know, and growing and realizing that we all are a big fish in a little pond, and we all could be a little fish in a big pond.
Right.
And so that's what evolution's all about. What we think is our outcome so often is not the outcome. And so we need to learn to adapt and enjoy it, enjoy the process, enjoy the camaraderie, enjoy the friendships that you make. That some will be lifelong friends, and that's what you go back to. You know, that's what you come back into is, well, what did I gain from it? What was my experience? Was it a good experience? Well, if you're playing a sport on a team, find the good experience.
Right, right. Well,
no matter what the outcome.
Yesterday, I think it was the game they played yesterday, but there was a national championship where the kicker didn't make the field goal.
Yeah.
And I, had read about it, and I mean, that situation where it's, the game, the field goal makes the game, right? Who's going to score the most points? And I thought to myself, like, I mean, I felt for the guy, right?
Yeah, but if you look at the year before, with that same NFL team,
right,
the tight end missed a ball that was thrown to him in the end zone. He dropped a perfect throw, and they lost the game.
Right.
So that's a game we play. You don't always win. You don't always lose. And sometimes the person who's asked to win the game falls short, and sometimes they don't.
Well, and I think that something maybe that I had thought of was like, and I hadn't had a chance to watch the entire game, and that was obviously one of the highlights they highlighted. But the game could have been lost earlier on in the game, where you know what I mean, where there was something, because the fact that yes, it was his, and I don't know off the top of my head if 40 yards is something. I think there's some stat of maybe it's missed, like, the chance of them making it goes down or whatnot. Like, I wasn't sure if it was like something that other kickers missed or whatnot. But I feel in that situation with coaches, it's like, obviously there's, of course, the internet highlights that he missed the.
That's right.
And not maybe, there could have been a play, right? Earlier on.
Maybe they were on the 1 yard line and they fumbled the ball, and the other team recovered the fumble. And you didn't score the ball, so you didn't get those 7 points. But we're focusing on the 3 points that were missed at the latter part of the game.
And that's the highlight reel, right?
That's the highlight reel. But if we look at the errors that other players made during the game, if those errors weren't made, it wouldn't have mattered about the field goal.
Right, right.
So it's all perspective.
Right, yeah, for sure. And there's probably an opportunity for even, I mean, coaching at that level, right, to prepare everyone on the team that, or even the post game, right? Obviously there was some post game, and he had some, I think maybe mention the wind or something, or I mean, and obviously there's a situation where he feels like now he has to, justify why it wasn't made or whatnot. But I think that in that situation, along the season, if the coach is coaching them in a way that is, encouraging, uplifting, and those types of things, that the team can get together and support the fact that, we win as a team, we lose as a team.
Yeah.
And there's not one person that, there's not one person that should be blamed,
No, because when teams lose, there are key points within a game that could have made that outcome differently.
Right.
So it's a game in totality, not just the end of the game. Right. And there's many plays that can help solidify a victory or not. So and again, once you lose a game, where do you go from there?
Right.
Well, we're going to come back, have a little team meeting. Our season's over.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to getting together with you guys after our break. And this was a great season, and we really grew a lot. We fought through a lot of adversity. It could have been a much different season for us, but we were in it to win it instead of not in it at all.
Right, for sure.
Right? So,
yeah.
So many ways to look at life.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Adjusting Your Life podcast. To view our show notes, please visit adjustingyourlifepodcast.com, and we will see you next time.
This is a broadcast of the Adjusting Your Life podcast, produced by Adjusted Life Media. All information contained in this episode and all other content provided on this channel is for informational and entertainment purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing a medical emergency, please contact your local emergency services. Dr. Stephen M. Ward, D.C., is a board-certified doctor of chiropractic medicine, licensed in the state of California, County of Los Angeles. The Adjusting Your Life podcast is written and produced by executive producer Jamie Knapp and co-produced by Kennedi Hall and Dr. Stephen Ward as Dr. Steve. For more information or to connect with us, visit adjustingyourlifepodcast.com.